Yes, yes. What's going on, guys? My name is Eddie Tranzcendent, and you're tuning in to Tranzcendent Outlook Podcast. Today, I have a super interesting and fun conversation we're going to have with Leticia and Valerie. Um, these ladies are doing some amazing work. I've been seeing it for the last few months, and I said, you know what? I want to get them on board. I want to get them on the program so that they can talk about what they're doing and hopefully get some exposure. Right? I think that if we can inspire one person to kind of tune in, one person to know what they're doing, one person to kind of maybe help out or volunteer or whatever it is, I think that's what we want to do here. There's a lot of amazing people doing amazing work in this great city and in this great state, and I think that too often we're so kind of like we have so much negativity, so much stuff going on that we focus so much on that, and we don't see the great people doing great things here in Bridgeport and in the Greater Bridgeport area and and wider than that, right? And so the main idea of this show, since I've been doing it, since I started back in 2017 and 2018, was to highlight those people. And today we're going to highlight two amazing folks. And so without further ado, let's go ahead and get Leticia up here and let's get Valerie up here as well. Ladies, what's going on? How are you?
Great. How are you?
Oh, awesome.
Thanks for
I'm,
having
I'm,
me.
I'm, I'm really good. I'm really good. And I'm really excited to have you here with me this evening. Like I was saying a few seconds ago, you guys are doing amazing work. Along with a lot of other people who are doing amazing work. And I think sometimes there's so much stuff going on that we tend to just focus on the negativity and the stuff that isn't working and the people who aren't helping. But people like you guys are working, and sometimes we may overlook you, and I don't want that to happen as often. I mean, I can't stop it all, right? But I don't want that to happen as often, and so I'm super excited to have you with me here this evening.
Thank you for having us.
We're grateful to be here.
Of course, of course, of course. I think that before before we get into kind of like the meat and potatoes of what we're going to be talking about today, I want folks who maybe don't know who Leticia, who you are, and Valerie, who you are. I want folks to kind of get to know you a little bit. So let's start with Leticia. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about who you are and what it is that you do.
Okay. My name is Leticia Crespo. I was born and raised in Bridgeport. Went through some private schools in Blessed Sacrament. And went to St. Joe's in Trumbull, and I went to Sacred Heart and went to the University of Connecticut. Graduated from Sacred Heart and became an attorney. Graduated from Quinnipiac University School of Law. Opened up my practice right after I graduated here downtown in Bridgeport, Connecticut, right across from City Hall, and I've been there for 22 years. Where I'm a Spanish speaking attorney, so that's not pretty common. I consider myself a unicorn oftentimes. So I'm really excited because it's just Bridgeport has always been where my heart's at, and being able to serve the community from a legal perspective, and now being able to expand a little bit further. That's who I am.
I love that, and that happened. I wasn't timing it, but I felt Valerie. I don't know. Was that like less than a minute? That was like incredible.
And she went all the way back too.
She went way back. Like she was like, I was born here, and then she just like took off. I love it. Valerie, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I don't know if I'm going to do as well as Ticia, but so I was born in Stanford, but I grew up in Bridgeport and spent most of my life in Bridgeport. Currently live in Stratford, and uh, serving the community is something that I've done for a very long time, right? Because I live here, and I've benefited from the resources and the people that have helped mentor me and supported me in growing through this community. Decided to invest, back in 2008, and that's what got me into real estate. And that's not the path that I was going to. I got a degree in biochemistry and psychology, and I'll tell you, I haven't used any of them except for I tell you, I counsel clients, and I feel like I'm a therapist with half of my clients, anyways. But I found that I loved investing and loved transforming communities, and neighborhoods, right, through investing, realizing there was opportunity there, and decided to get licensed as I was growing my family and my business, and the market crashed, and learned lots of great lessons during that period of time, right? And so I've been licensed for 14. It'll be 14 years this year in October.
Okay.
Through that time, I've grown my business, grown a team. So I have a team that works with me of agents and operations, including my sister, who she's awesome with the marketing and operation systems. on my team, and we have helped and served our community, well over 400 families over the years. So, and something that we continue to do. And I serve in other areas and other ways in the community as well on different boards, just as a way to connect and continue to give back.
If I was like if I was next, like if there was like a line, it was like, okay, you go Leticia, okay, good job. Okay, now you go Valerie. Okay, now you go Eddie. I'd be like, I'm gonna leave. Like I'm out of here. Like you guys are killing it. And I was just like, oh my God. Like it's so good. Valerie, what happened like within your journey, what happened that made you turn? Like where did that where did that come from?
Failure.
Okay.
Yeah. Believe it or not. I mean, I call it that now, but it was a purposeful shift, right? And I thought I was going in this direction and this was the path. I told you I got these degrees and everything. And I'm a very religious and spiritual person, and God just pretty much just showed me that was not it. That was not the direction. So I sat, looking for a job in my fields for almost a year until I decided to kind of redirect and um, you know, looked and kind of just put one foot in front of the other, looking at what made sense, where the opportunities were, and real estate and investing kind of is what led me to sales. I mean, working with people has always been my goal and my passion. I just realized that I could do it through real estate instead.
Love it. I love it. I think that I'm a firm believer that that we all have a purpose. But further than that, I'm a firm believer that we all have the same purpose, and I think that that's the purpose to give back. And I think that the journey teaches us and makes us aware of what our gift is, and that's what opens the door to what that purpose is. Meaning, what do you give, right? Because once you know what your gift is, then you know what you're gonna give. And so that's what you ladies are doing. You ladies are giving, and so you're in your purpose. Leticia, you're born and raised in Bridgeport. Um, you went to school in Bridgeport, and you've been here 20 plus years working in Bridgeport. You know, why stay here? Why in Bridgeport? I'm not saying it like in a negative way, right? But I'm with GBLN, the Greater Bridgeport Latino Network. We have a civic engagement program where we talk to kids, seventh and eighth graders, and one of the main focuses of that particular program is to inspire young kids to, yeah, go ahead, go get an education, and if you got to go outside of Connecticut, go get that education, but come back home. Like we need you here. Like we need you to bring all that here and help us grow here. So why
Right.
did you decide to stay here?
That's an easy question. So, so for me, growing up, I had a lot of mentors. I was one of the first classes from Aspira, so that was led
Mm,
by Americo Santiago, by Cesar Batalla, by Alma Maya. So I had some pretty incredible mentors that I sacrificed my Saturday mornings for.
yeah,
And that program was driven towards creating leaders, right? And my group was specifically public policy leadership. And so I kind of was pretty sure about what I wanted to do. I was clear about the deficits in the city of Bridgeport. I went to school in private schools, and that was an intentional choice that my parents sacrificed for, knowing that they didn't want to really take the risks with my education in the public school system, with the challenges that we faced and continue to face, our students do. And so I knew that I needed to become an attorney and wanted to be able to make sure that I would be able to plant my roots right out of law school. I graduated, and my mentor that I had in the same space that I'm in offered me the opportunity to open up and mentor me the whole entire time. And so that's what I did, knowing that it's an easy option to draw the resources from this community and to walk away. That's the easy choice, is to not serve and lead and serve in your community where you're from. But I thought that it was really important to keep that business there. I mean, again, I could move to any community,
hmm,
my business, right? But it was an intentional choice. It's what they're familiar with, right across the street from City Hall. You can't miss me. And it just was a way to make sure that I'm there and my people are comfortable. I speak Spanish. I can make my way through Portuguese at this point as a third language, for legal matters only. but it was intentional because the community is there. It's a community in need. The ratios of us people of color and Latinos in this space are limited. So to leave would be like literally the opposite of what I feel our community needed from a legal perspective.
And why real estate law?
So that's interesting. That is more personal
Okay,
because I think many people know me, but I don't really, when it comes to the fact that I have a son who has special needs.
okay,
My practice was broader. My son is autistic, and well, my oldest son is autistic. I knew since I was pregnant that he was going to be autistic, and well, no, I'm sorry, not autistic, that he was going to be a little person. He's a dwarf.
okay.
And so I knew that all along. And so I had already been practicing for 3 years before I got married and had my son. But I had to make certain decisions to make sure that I can be available to his medical needs.
Mm,
And so I wanted to make sure I did that, and I picked a specific area that was true to my convictions. That our community home ownership is has always been the pathway. I'm a child of co-ops. I was raised in Stone Ridge, so
okay.
I know the value of what that stepping stone did for my family,
Mm.
and just want knew that that was a great way to kind of continue. Aside from my love for education and personal growth, home ownership was it. So that's what I do.
Love it, love it, love it, love it. This is oh my god, this is so good. Valerie, do you speak any other languages or
I
Hmm.
do.
you do?
Yeah, Leticia and I have a lot of parallels, to tell you the truth. My so I'm Haitian American. So my
Okay.
parents were both born in Haiti. So I speak French Creole,
I
and
I kind I kinda for some reason I kinda knew that. Like,
yeah,
I mean, I don't.
you kinda picked it up.
Uh, I'm looking at you and I'm like, she has. That's why I asked.
Yeah. So I speak French Creole. I speak a fair amount of Spanish as well, but I do have a Spanish speaking agent on my team as well. So we do serve a broad range of clients and languages on our team.
And how important, and Leticia, this question is for you too. You can get ready as Valerie answers it. But how important was it for your parents to ensure that you spoke both languages? And also, how important is it for you to make sure that that your children also are speaking both languages, right? Not only English, but your native tongue as well.
So I had the privilege of growing up with my grandmother as well.
Mm,
Right? My mother
yes.
came over when she was just a teenager. So, I was blessed with having my grandmother with me locally, right, in the house. So I was able to pick up on the language and learn and adapt the love of the language of French Creole, right? That was not a privilege that all of my cousins and siblings had, right?
Mm,
And so I'm blessed to have had that. It's more challenging as the
hmm.
generations proceed on, especially my husband is he's African American, so he doesn't speak a lick of
Yeah.
it, right? And so it's a lot more challenging for myself with my children. So whether it's French Creole or Spanish, one of the things that I think they've learned and picked up from me is that it's really important to be able to have a second language, right? To be able to communicate with a broader set of people because that's what our community is, right? It's diversity.
No, most definitely, most definitely. Leticia, tell me about your journey with that.
So it wasn't an option, right? So I'm first. My dad was first generation here, so like English was his first. Was his second language. My mom, was not. That was English. She was born here, so it was her native tongue English. But the grandparents, in order if you wanted to really speak with them, you really had to, especially my dad's mom. So sending me to Puerto Rico was something that just had to happen in the summers. Even though I didn't want to do it, I didn't value it in the moment. But over time, obviously, I was able to acquire it, and it's invaluable to my business. It really is. However, when it comes to my children, um, I have that family dynamic. So
Okay.
because my mom is on the spectrum,
Yes.
language he was not really able to speak. So with his
Mm,
therapist, it was important to he has dyspraxia as well, so processing language is very challenging for him. So from a therapeutic perspective, we had to commit to a language because,
mm,
in English, he's, we kind of throw it off. But now my older, he can grasp a lot of, words. My youngest son, he's interested in it.
yeah.
So I think he's getting there, but definitely not proficient. But he knows the importance because I tell him that this is my livelihood is based on our community,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they really understand the importance of how it enables me to serve the people
Yes.
that I want to serve.
No, of course, no, of course, and I asked that because, of course, I mean, I go through the same stuff as well. In my house, it was nothing but Spanish, right? My mommy didn't speak no English, so it wasn't happening. But we see that, as I got getting older, and I see, my nephews and nieces coming up, and my own kids is it's more difficult because not everything is in English, right? And so it's difficult to not only teach it, but to also teach the importance of it, right? Which
Yeah.
I think later on they might grasp it, but when they're little, they don't really care for the importance of that because that doesn't matter to them. Um, so so last year, towards the middle of the year, I start seeing things coming up on social media about CEO mindset success and all these things kind of coming up. Um, I guess it was when you were kind of preparing to kind of launch, right? I
Yeah.
started seeing posts here and there. I have no idea what's going on. I just know that I follow Leticia, so I see it coming up, but I don't really look into it, right? I'm not gonna lie and say, "Oh, I was interested when I saw it." I kind of just saw it pop up here and there, and whatever. But then I start to see, every morning that you guys are up there, and then I start to see familiar faces, right? A lot of people who I know, a lot of people who I network with. I see them speaking and whatnot. And so I start to get intrigued into what's going on here. What is Leticia doing? Um, over there with whatever it is that they're doing. I don't know what it is, right? Um, and so I then start to kind of like click in once in a while because the mornings are a little hectic, right? So around that time I'm dropping off my son at school and my wife, but it's a little hectic. But whenever I get the chance, I just kind of hit play real quick and I listen, and I love the conversations that are being had, right? Because I think these are things that I talk about all the time with my business, with my clients in terms of my coaching business, and things that I think about all the time that I think that not enough people talk about, right? Especially not enough Black and brown people, right? And so as I picked my podcast back up this year, I said, I gotta reach out to Leticia and again, Valerie. Nothing against you, Valerie. It's just that, of course, I was following Leticia, so I saw her doing her thing, so I was like, I gotta reach out, right? But of course, as soon as I reach out to Leticia, she goes, "Well, hold on, I gotta hit up Valerie. We gotta come in here. We gotta, we gotta." That she said, "That's my partner. We don't go nowhere without each other." So
Yeah.
um, and so I'm excited to hear from both of you or whoever wants to kind of throw it at me first. Where was this idea born? Because a lot of us we have ideas. Ideas. I mean, we're full of them, right? But not often enough do those ideas come out of our head and become an actual thing, right? And so where was this born? And how did you guys come together to actually make it kind of come alive?
You want to
You want
go?
to start, Leticia?
Sure. Okay. So during the pandemic, I was invited by a gentleman by the name of Luis Sanchez to a mastermind with a coach who was basically guiding us through a book. And that book was Intentional Living by John Maxwell. So obviously we're all in isolation for the most part. And he was generous enough to host this not this podcast. It was a mastermind through Zoom, so, people from all different areas. I didn't even know really Valerie at the time. We just had maybe a couple transactions, but very, very, just from a distance. We knew each other passively. And so during this group, we kind of connected. We were talking about some incredible topics that it went so well. I had never been exposed to the coaching world. I kind of
Mm,
felt like I was a first generation college student and kind of just was fighting it through by myself, figuring it all out. Very in a very small cocoon, right? Very
mhm,
isolated in a sense, right? Because there were not many people who were doing what I was doing, but I figured it out from all different areas. And we came together, and then we continued on to a different book because it went really well. So we moved on to another book by John Maxwell that was called The 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth.
Mm.
So we really were able to dive into so many topics that were really meaningful, and we kind of connected after that. And then, Val, do you want to take it from there?
Well, that coach that came on, I had connected to our area, because he was my coach. He's my business coach and my team coach. Right, his name was David Patterson, and he's out of Atlanta, Georgia area right now. And so, because I knew the kind of conversations that he was able to lead, right? And I wanted to be able to have those conversations here locally, right? And it turned out even better than I expected, that mastermind, right? The group, and made new relationships and friendships like Leticia, who, that's my girl right now, right? And um, so I appreciate that time, and Leticia and I have had follow-up conversations, right? We every once in a while we'll have a conversation. Man, it would be great if we able to have this conversation here, with the business owners and entrepreneurs here, and the people that are here. They need to hear these conversations too. They're not able to get exposed to these conversations. How can we make this happen? Well, it so turns out, right, that David and several of his clients and other business partners were putting together what was called a collaborative, right? And I was a part of that. And so we were looking to go out and talk about these topics and bring them to different communities and areas, right? We started out in Georgia and I saw that there might have been an opportunity to kind of overlap, that there was some potential synergy, right, between what David and the collaborative, the Dapper Collaborative was doing, and what Leticia and I wanted to do here locally. And so we came to David and said, we'd love to work with you in helping to bring these topics to our area, because we want to have these conversations locally with the business owners and with the people here, right? And that's how we came to the conversation around the summit, which we'll talk a little bit more about, right?
Yeah.
Um, and even before then, we said, well, but we need to be having conversations that help us lead up to this summit,
Hmm.
right? We need the summit, but we need conversations that kind of help feed and grow the community members before then. And so that's how Coffee Teen Lead was born, right? The morning conversations, that morning mastermind conversation that we have. So, you know, that's where we are.
That's the story.
That's so
Sorry, I
I
mean,
great.
there's
love.
a lot more to it, but
No,
that's
no,
where
of
I'll
course,
stop.
no, of course. I'm sure there's a lot of it, a lot of behind the scenes and things that are going on. But you guys definitely made it happen. Um, how do you pull the trigger though? Again, because a lot of what I like to do with my content is, well, for me, there's two things that I want to accomplish with this conversation, right? The first thing that I want to do is that I want to get at least one person out there who doesn't know who Leticia or Valerie is. I want them to know who you are, right? If we get one person, then we win. I think that's a win for me, right? And then the second thing that I want to do is I want to inspire at least one person out there to take that step, right? To think outside of the box, and to not only think outside of the box, but to work outside of the box, right? And to actually lean into whatever that purpose, whatever that passion is, and to actually do it. So, how do you ladies end up pulling the trigger and getting started on these conversations, these morning conversations?
Yes. Wanna go? You go?
How we end up pulling the trigger? You know,
So you wanna go with that?
I'm gonna let you do this, but I'll just say one. You're looking at two people that are doers, right? Like we decide that there's something that there's a need, and we want to fill it, right? We want to
Yes,
serve and we want to fill it, and we felt that we had enough resources and connections to be able to make that happen, right? And so, Leticia, you can take it from there, but it takes a bit of you believing that you're serving a need.
Yeah. So we definitely, began by having obviously a bunch of meetings, and just kind of fielding this out, fleshing it out, mapping it out, writing it out. If you were able to, if I could have recorded what those meetings looked like, just taking those minutes, writing them down, and just literally, like you said, you have all these ideas and you find ways to bring them to life. For me, that is just second nature.
Yeah.
That's just how my brain works. And just kind of saying, okay, what are all the pieces to get to that we are going to be required to make this happen? And so we did that. We did that collectively. We talked about the positives, the negatives, and really just like I said, mapping it out week by week. Every Friday morning at 8:30 is when we did it, and just kind of just kept building it out until kind of obviously looking at it as a business, right? I'm a business owner, she's a business owner, he's a business owner and a business coach. So that's what the group needed to do in order to bring it to life.
Mm,
No different than what we're bringing to the table with others, right? We're talking about, whether it's your personal growth and you wanting to transform your life, your environment, where you live, how you can go to another level, or you want to do it within the business sector as an entrepreneur. We needed to treat it as if we were a whole brand new baby business. So that's what we've really tried to do with this, and I think that we were executing on that. It like with anything, any business, there's always a risk, and there's always hesitation. But I feel like at the end of the day, you need to plan, you need to pray, and you need to execute, and that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it comes from the heart of what we're really trying to do. It's all about leading and serving, and pouring into others, into the community. That gives us a lot, right? It gives, I mean, I can't thank that this community enough. That if this is a gesture of how do we give back in some way, this is it.
Yeah.
I love it. Plan, pray, and execute. That's it. That should be the name of this whole conversation. We're done. Se acabó. I love it. All right. So Valerie, you mentioned the coffee, tea, and lead morning conversations, right? That you're having in the morning.
Yeah.
Obviously. What can you tell us about these conversations? What's to be expected in these conversations?
Well, the conversations for Coffee, Tea, and Lead are they're supposed to be there. I mean, it's 30 minutes, right? So they're brief snippets that touch on the five pillars that we have decided are the foundation of what we want to express and what we want to share with CEO mindset success. Understanding that CEO mindset success is about being the CEO of your life, right? Not just the CEO of a company and for entrepreneurs, right? How do you help lead your life? So the conversations that we have in the morning touch on in leadership, entrepreneurship, mindset, um, growth, right, and team building, right, and in different ways. Some is open conversation. Others are instructional, right, where people are sharing about you know their experiences, the books that they've read, and just bringing those topics to life, right, so that we can you can get exposed to different thoughts and ideas.
I love it. I love it. And in terms of the different subjects that you cover, is there any particular rhyme or reason like like of the scheduling? Like, is there some kind of an idea, or is it kind of just whatever we can get? You know what I mean? Because sometimes it's almost like, hey, whatever we can get to fill in this day, we kind of just do. Or are you guys following some kind of I don't know, some kind of a premeditated or pre discussed kind of or order of doing things?
We definitely have a schedule that we work on. Like right now,
Okay.
we're looking at March and April schedules.
Okay.
We tend to know what each of us have like I don't want to say a wheelhouse, but we're guided by these pillars, right? Leadership, entrepreneurship, mindset, team building, and personal growth. So everything that we pick, or whoever comes on who decides to lead that discussion,
Okay.
knows kind of it's in that family of things. Where do you want to go? We'll have, like, for example, with mindset, or even with business, we have two different therapists that will come on, and guide through that. Like the topics, like I said, once you have those categories, we really stick within this categories, so that they're really centered on helping people with their business and personal growth. That's the
Okay.
focus. And
Okay.
to get there, we touch on these 5 topics and we kind of map it out for the week. And
Okay.
and then they're organic, but somehow you could say it, Val.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I was going to say the exact same thing, because it's like we don't necessarily, the speakers that help guide the conversation don't necessarily talk about, we don't necessarily talk to each other about which the topic that we're going to, be presenting for the following week. But somehow throughout the week, there seems to be a natural weaving of the conversations that happens.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think it just speaks to how integral these different pillars are to each other. And they just naturally lead into um, conversations that will go from one day to the next. And it's really interesting how it happens every week.
I love it. For those who are watching well, first of all, if you're watching on Facebook, thank you so much for watching. We really do appreciate your support here. If you're on Instagram, if you're on LinkedIn, thank you so much. If you're on YouTube watching, I'm going to share what this week looks like, and maybe we could talk about that a little bit. So if you're listening on Spotify or on Apple Podcast right now, sorry you can't see this, but I'm going to share this the week, right? So we have here Monday the 19th through Friday the 23rd, which is this week. Maybe we could talk about that and kind of like the idea behind these 5 particular conversations.
Yeah. I'll go first only because the 15th, that was mine, right? So let's just say, for example, with neurodiversity, I wanted to make sure that I centered a conversation around talking about, different needs that communities may have, from an entrepreneurial perspective, or from, people who have family members who may be struggling, or parents who have children who kind of don't know what is the longevity of their careers once you have a diagnosis, for example, ADD, autism. How do they function, or is there a place in the workplace that will receive them very well, and talking about the strengths that these communities have. So for me, that was important. Like I said, my son is autistic, and I've been able to be blessed for a period of time to choose to work in the area of special education law, because it was very passionate for me, and the challenges we faced with advocating for our son's needs, and knowing other families that are impacted, and how their need to be serviced, and what does that look like once you age out. So that was important for us. I'll just touch quickly on David's topic, is that
Before you go, can I just say that so before this conversation, I didn't know anything about your son, and I didn't know any of that stuff, as you already know. But I tuned into that conversation on Monday, and your passion was pouring through your conversation, right? Now that I know kind of like the other side of the story, it kind of makes a lot of sense to me now. But I could definitely tell that through everything you were saying, which was a great conversation, I could see your passion for that. And I just, for me, I love that, because I just feel like, as the listener or somebody who's watching, if you can either feel or see that passion, it just drives you to want to like hear more, right? And so I just kind of wanted to put that out there. Go ahead, keep going.
Yeah, no, I mean it's passionate, because when your child, I had limited exposure. Now, obviously, this is a tangent, but I had very limited exposure going to Catholic schools, to people who that I didn't know disability had learning or educational disabilities, because they're not serviced in those environments in the way that would be great. And so I had to learn this whole world of it through my son, and that
Yeah.
opened the door to me wanting to advocate for other families, that
Mm,
just kind of it came about, because you start to learn that this is an area that struggles, that they suffer in silence.
yeah.
So that's a whole other animal,
Yeah.
for sure. But yeah, and so, in terms of like the invaluable laws of growth, that was like a couple. I want to say it's a 5-part series he wanted to do, covering in a very abbreviated version, 15 invaluable laws of growth. When I say that this book is transformative, anyone who has not read it or can go back to the pieces that he's covered, David has covered, you know, let's just say that if I had, can I go back in the time machine, being, let's say, in college or even in high school, and having said, okay, if you can work on these 15 laws in your life and apply them in your journey, and save me so much,
Mm,
of the impact or the learning or feel the feelings you go along the way being a first generation Latina attorney.
mm,
That is a path. That is a path, right? And so if we can lighten that load for anyone, um, just having access to that resource, that'll save, like, you might as well ask for a shortcut. Um,
yeah.
it's life changing, right? So that's kind of him. And then I'll let Val, you touch on Jana and you and
Yeah, so John Redmond is also a coach, an aspiring coach, and
Okay.
she every Wednesday chooses to do a book review, right? And I love that because what it does, it gives us a taste. Because how many people have come? You need to read this book, right? Dave Patterson is great for it, right? You got to read that book. You need to read that book. So what John is doing is kind of giving you a taste and an overview of these books so that you
Okay.
can see what you're connecting to and give you it. I feel like it kind of gives me a shortcut to say, you know what, I really should read that book right away, right? That should be my next book, right? So
Okay.
I love that with Jana. um, Thursday and Friday is interesting because we have special guests that are coming on, and Leticia is actually going to be co-hosting with me on Friday as well. And so Thursday and Friday of this week, I love to have more open conversations, discussions in our masterminds whenever possible, right?
Yeah.
And this week we are having Dr. Timothy C. Brantley and Coach Portia Brantley of the Coach and the Counselor LLC, and they are well, they're a very dynamic couple, right? And Dr. Brantley is a licensed counselor therapist, and a whole host of other things, right? That in his resume, including a stand-up comedian. And Coach Portia, she does a lot of work regarding touch work and just together they give such a dynamic perspective on relationships and
Mm,
how to build stronger relationships, right? And so the three C's that they focus on are communication, connection, and compromise. And so I wanted to bring that conversation to light, just because you'll see the energy between them. Please jump on this call if right, if you hear about this, please jump on this morning call because I will tell you, you will love them forever, right? The energy between them. But seeing how those three C's can impact your relationships, right? Not just your significant other, but the relationships of people around you. And then we're carrying that conversation into Friday and carrying it into your entrepreneurial relationships and you as a leader, right? How leveraging the power of those three C's. So please join in. Like these conversations go wherever we need them to go, right? So it depends on the people that come on and what you're able to bring to the conversation. I mean, we have gone in a lot of different deep directions with some of these conversations. That's just a taste this week of what we cover.
I love it. And in terms of again, that 8 o'clock time frame may be difficult for some folks. Where is there an archive? Is there somewhere where I could find these conversations, or is it like, hey, you didn't catch it, you lost it. That's it. You're not gonna be able to see it.
yes. So we there our media, our masterminds are on our CEO Mindset Success Facebook page. So
Okay.
we live stream there and they are recorded there as well. So you can always catch the replay. We kind of picked the 8 o'clock time slot because we didn't want it to impact people's workday. So for us to get people on, but also for those
Oh,
who can't, can go watch the replay. So we know that's where there's a lot of the activity is kind of people going back and catching when they're ready. But that was a good carve out for us, and when we thought it would be great. I know my day starts like that's a great time slot before my work day, but
yeah.
after the morning rush of our personal lives, or health life, right? Trying to get to the gym or whatever we got to do. But we can get that in there. So that's definitely available on those platforms. Hmm.
Okay. So go ahead, Valerie.
No, I was just gonna say, and we completely understand. We call it coffee, tea, and lead for a reason, right? We know that that's your time in the morning. You're either having your cup of coffee to get started for the day, or you're still running around trying to get your kids to school or whatever. And we invite everyone, right? Like you know, a lot of people are driving into work, right? So you can have us on the call, right, while you're listening in the morning. And the goal is to be able to start with bit of positivity, right? Start with a
Yes.
bit of growth, start with a bit of thinking differently
Yes.
than maybe you would have. And your day, you may find that your day goes a little differently than maybe it would have, right? Now that you're kind of changing that pattern.
Yes, most definitely. I agree 100%. And so this is all leading towards the summit, right? So we got a summit coming up April, let's see, April,
Fifth,
is it April 5th, right? Yeah,
Fifth and
April 5th and 6th. Oh,
yep.
2 day summit. Oh, hold on. So let's talk about the summit. What could we expect at the summit coming up in April?
You want to go ahead?
So yeah, so it's a day and a half essentially, right, for the summit itself. And what we plan on having are we're going to have David come out, right, and Jonna come out to speak, as well as some local, right, leaders that are going to be speaking to our community. That what we're hoping is that our community members and our entrepreneurs and anyone who wants to get poured into. That's the goal, right? To be poured into around these conversations and topics, to come out and spend a day of immersion and being able to hear from these thought leaders and to be able to network with other people that are like minded as well. So that's the goal of the conversation. And plus, you get food, you get fed, and you get fed well, right? And it's in a comfortable space. And like I said, you get to interact and network. Like, you know, just this bit of these last several months, I've gotten to meet so many different leaders that I haven't known before yet, right? And you know, there's just so many more people out there that are doing amazing things that you'll be able to connect with.
And part of our thought process in putting this together was not like a rinse and repeat of what we know exists in other places, right? So, for example, you know, if you think about the amount of training or these kinds of events where you bring in coaches and they're speaking and they're, you know, these summits, you know, first off, you're paying for airfare, you're paying for hotels, you're traveling, and you're going for these number of days, and there's an expense to it, and you have to carve that out. And so we thought, well, why can't we bring that here? Why does it have to be go to New York? Why does it have to be go to Florida or to Atlanta, you know, to Georgia? But we've seen them done at these amazing levels as well.
Yes.
And you really do receive so much out of these experiences and being in that kind of a room and that energy. I think, you know, if anyone knows about energy like that, you know that there's just you just don't leave a room the same when
Yeah.
you're poured into in this way. And like I said, it's going to be those same pillars and those that the same areas that we're going to be having the coaches work on and work through. So it's going to be, again, it's going to still be the same five pillars. It's going to be very dynamic. Some of it will be main stage, some of it will be breakout. It will be still be food, still, you know, there's so many different dynamics to it, with some vendors and sponsor space available as well. So we're really excited about it. We've kind of seen these models, and figured that, you know, there's a community that would really receive it well. So we picked Trumbull Marriott, so it's no excuse for distance. It's close.
Yeah.
Um, Excited.
No, definitely. And that was gonna be my next question, in terms of if it's gonna be just one kind of like full event or breakouts. Can we talk about those breakouts a little bit?
Yeah. Yeah, so again, we each of the speakers kind of, we the main stage is going to have definitely different topics,
Okay.
within the pillars of leadership, entrepreneurship, team building, personal growth, and mindset. So
Got it.
that's and then the second day, Val, why don't you talk about how we had that, you know, how we broke it up so that it's
So
different.
the second day, like TC said, we're gonna have breakouts, right? We're gonna start with one breakout where we're going to have men and women separated out, where we get to
Okay.
talk, because these topics impact us a little differently, right?
Of
If we're
course.
going to be honest, right? And so we're going to be able to create a space where we get to talk about those from those different perspectives, right? And then after that, we're going to break out, and you're going to have options to break out into groups around the other pillars. So we're going to have the pillars that are going to the breakouts that are going to break into the pillars around personal growth, right, and leadership and team building and all that, right. And so you'll get to pick which of those that you'll want to participate in, and then we're going to all come back together and give a chance for a download and asking some final kind of wrap up questions of some of the folks who helped lead the discussions of breakout sessions.
Definitely. And listen, and if you're watching on YouTube, all this information will be down in the description. If you're on Spotify, Apple, wherever you're listening to this or watching this, the information will be down in the description. So if you're listening to this before April 5th, then go down to the description. If this is after April 5th, then don't go down there because the event already passed and you've missed it. So you have to look forward. Yeah, you have to look forward to the next summit, right? Now we do have some availability for sponsorships, right? For vendors. So let's talk a little bit about that before we jump off.
Sure. Val, did you want to do that?
So we have different sponsorship levels, just understanding that everybody's in a different place and that, everybody's looking for a different level of exposure, right?
Of
We have our
course.
gold level sponsor, which is $5,000, right? And with our gold level sponsor, we also want to have you on the call, right? Like, let's get you on, let's get you exposed as well. And, we have our silver sponsor, that's $2,500. Bronze sponsor is 1,000. Event patron is 500, and then we have the general admission, obviously, tickets, which are currently 199.
Yeah, a lot of that information is in the comments. They've already put it in the comments, so please look in the comments if you're on Facebook. Again, if you're on YouTube, or if you're listening to the audio, if you listen to the podcast, if you're driving, do not stop driving. Get to your destination first. Once you get there, go down to the description, and all the information will be there. And we would greatly appreciate if you support this amazing event happening in April. We're almost a month out, right? I mean, I'm pretty sure time is just speeding up, and before you know it, it'll be there. Are you ladies excited or
Yeah, it's
what?
exciting, right? Because, like you said, you have ideas, and then when you
Yes.
ideas, come to life,
Like,
and you know the hard work that you put into it,
of
um,
course.
and the impact that we hope that it will have. I mean, you can't help but be excited about it, and we hope that's what that people feel what we're what the energy that we're putting towards this, um,
Yes.
and hopefully that is well received by those who come and join us. So we're excited about that for sure.
No, definitely, definitely. It sounds exciting. You ladies look exciting. I feel like it's gonna be a great event. I'm loving everything I'm hearing. This is all the stuff that I talk about all the time. So to see somebody actually doing it, sometimes you have to have that team. You have to have a team of doers, which is what you guys have, and it's a beautiful thing. I love what you guys are doing, and I'm super excited for it. Is there anything that I didn't ask you, or is there anything I may have left out that perhaps you wanted to share?
I think you've been, an amazing for someone to script any of these things, and you didn't give us any, you didn't like quiz us ahead of time. Like, I am thoroughly impressed, and I'm very grateful um for this, because this has been awesome. I appreciate it.
I talked about earlier. I talked about purpose, and I talked about gift, and I talked about discovering those things. And when you discover it, is what you're able to do. And so when I discovered that this microphone was part of my gift, it's just something that comes. And so that's just what you get. This is me just gloating a little bit, but I just love
I
this
love
stuff. I
it.
love
This
it.
is good.
I love it so much. I love it. Go ahead,
Love
Valerie.
it,
What were
love
you gonna say?
it. We're all about giving our flowers now. Flowers now.
Yes, yes, absolutely. I wanted to mention too that one of the things that was important to Leticia and I, right? We talked about the community, but particularly our Black and Brown community, right? Because we feel that that community, and more specifically, has hard time getting access to the resources and the traveling to the events and all the things that Leticia talked about, right? And being able to do those things. This community and this event is open to everybody. Please understand that. Absolutely, please understand that conversations are open to everybody. Um, and yet there is this underlying kind of conversation that we're wanting to encourage on how some of these topics are impacting our minority communities, right? And so, for those of you that are watching and that are listening to this, as particularly the leaders of these communities, right? These micro communities here locally, this is for you. This is for you, and this is for your members and for those that you help serve. Like, please share this out because we want to be able to bring this to your membership, to your communities, your micro communities that are here locally, because that's exactly the point, right? And that's the goal. And you're the ones that we are mainly targeting with this because we want to expose our community members to this information, to these conversations.
Yeah, I couldn't agree anymore. I mean, the reason why I became a personal development coach and a disc facilitator was because of that. Because there, these great things that are like our community doesn't know about, and these are things that once you know and once you understand yourself, like and once you understand the importance of self awareness and just taking accountability for who you are, your future and the things that you could do are limitless. But for whatever reason, we just don't have access to these things, and so that's part of the reason why I do what I do is because I just saw it. I said, wait, it's right there. Why aren't we learning this? Why aren't we doing this? And so I love that you said that because it's kind of my story. But that's a story for another day. But listen, ladies, thank you so much for this amazing conversation. I think this is good. I think that folks learn a lot with this conversation, not only about what you guys are doing with the summit coming up, but about who you are, right? I think that's even more important than the summit is who you are, and the fact that you're doing it here at home. Leticia, the fact that you're kind of born here, mentored by great folks that I know, and you're doing that great work. Just goes to show that other little boys and girls can do that. Like it's doable. It's manageable. We can do it. We just have to want to do it, and we also have to understand when it's our time to be that mentor that can then mentor those little ones to go ahead and do it themselves, right? And Valerie, I think that your story and how the way that your journey went and how you kind of set your sights on this one thing and then the failure took you to say, you know what, I got to go a different way, and you didn't let the failure totally knock you out. You used the failure to help you set in the right direction, and now you know what you're doing. I think that's an amazing thing because I think that very often we get into this mindset of I have to make up my mind as a junior in high school of what I want to do for the rest of my life. But there's no way for us to know that. There just isn't. What we can do is we can taste, right? And so we taste different things, and then when we find that thing that we love, then we kind of stick to that, right? And so your journey talks about that, and so I love that so much. So thank you, ladies, so much for sharing. Um, if there's anything that I can do to help with the summit, with whatever you guys have going on, please don't ever hesitate to reach out to me. Let me know, whether it's me, whether it's GBLN, or anybody. I mean, a lot of the people who I know, but there might be a person that I might be able to connect you with. Please let me know how I can help, and I will very gladly do that. Um, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna finish the podcast here in a minute. I'm gonna take you guys off the screen, but don't go nowhere so we can talk a few seconds before you guys leave for the evening. Again, thank you so much for being here tonight. And I appreciate you. Any last words, or we're good?
No, like you said, make whenever you get somewhere, make sure that the most important thing that we do is to put a hand back and help someone, come up with us. So that's the goal, and we're grateful that you're doing that even with us. So we're thankful.
Yeah. Yeah, we are. I'm very grateful for the opportunity to be exposed in this manner, because it's just in synergy with, especially being able to do it with Leticia.
I love it. All right. All right. Good night. I'll talk to you in a second. Don't go nowhere, please.
Awesome. Thank
All right, guys, that was an amazing conversation. If you tuned in a little bit late, Luz, I saw that you just tuned in. Luz, you got to go back and watch this again. This is such a great conversation with two great powerhouses of women. So if you just tune in now, please make sure you go back. If you're on YouTube, make sure you hit the subscribe button and make sure you watch this whole conversation. Great conversation, great women, great things happening here in Bridgeport. Please don't forget the summit is coming up. April 5th, April 6th. The information will be down in the description or in the comments, depending on where you're at. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for your support. I really do appreciate this. I wouldn't be able to do this without you. You guys are the oxygen that makes these things go forward, right? Not only this program that I'm doing here, but the stuff that that these ladies are working on. It doesn't move without you, without you tuning in, without you supporting it, right? So you're the oxygen of it. So thank you so much for your support. I really do appreciate it. I'm talking really fast because I don't want to make them wait any longer. It's already 8:30 at night. And I know they want to go to bed. I want to go to bed too. Guys, thank you so much for support. And don't forget, be transcendent.